Great seeing my next guest back in action. She is scheduled to fight Aspen Ladd coming up here at UFC Fight Night on October 1st. It's Macy Chiasson back here on the program. Macy, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you? It's nice to be back.
Yes, it is nice to see you back. Glad to see this fight get rebooked. Let's go all the way back to the first scheduled fight with Aspen. I know you had an injury there. What exactly happened? Because I know there was 48 hours before the fight was supposed to take place.
Yeah, so I broke my foot in camp about 2.5 weeks before the fight. And right when it happened, it was like the last 10 seconds of sparring that week, and I threw a front kick and somebody blocked it with their knee, and so the bottom of my foot hit their knee, and I was like, yeah, it hurt really bad, but I didn't think anything of it. I've had injuries that have hurt before that weren't that bad, like not a break, like maybe just like a really deep bone bruise. And then the next day I got up to walk, my whole foot was purple. I couldn't put any weight on my foot. So I was having even going out to walk my dog, I had to sit every 2 minutes that I was walking my dog. It was like excruciating pain to walk, much less run or spar at all. So after about a week, it was feeling a little bit better. So it wasn't as stiff as when I initially injured it. And so what I started doing is I would cast it with tape and a sleeve, and then I would put a wrestling shoe on. And so I did most of my camp with a broken foot. Usually when I fight, I'm a very bouncy fighter with elusive movement. I was fighting literally flat foot because any sort of bounce or movement was excruciating, to the point to where I would fall over and hold my foot. And so I didn't throw any kicks. I didn't even wear any shin guards for the rest of my sparring. And wall work, cage work, wrestling, pivoting on my foot, all of it was excruciating pain, 10 out of 10 worst pain ever. And so we finally manipulated it to where I was able to walk a little bit better. I was getting ultrasound done on it, red light done on it. I went to hyperbarics 3 times a week, which is extremely expensive. $250 an hour. So I was going 3 times a week for hyperbarics after training. We get to fight week. It's feeling pretty good. And then the night before, we're doing a little warm up, a little shakeout right before I started my weight cut. And I was not able to put any weight on it. It just was kind of back to square one. And so Mick and everything, they all had an MRI of my foot. So they knew before we went on a fight week that it was broken. And it was just a matter of trying to keep it in a good place before the fight. And we ended up just re-injuring it the night before. And to be honest with you, I know I got a little bit of shit for it, but I'm fighting number 3, I'm
Right.
in a place where I finally feel like I'm starting to really push forward in my career. And if I'm going to fight someone who's notable, like Aspen Ladd, number 3, number 2, whatever, I want to be 100%. And I know that this fight is going to be striking heavy, grappling heavy. And if I'm not 100% with my foot, if I can't walk or pivot on my foot, I'm not if we can postpone the fight and get it rebooked, then we'll do that.
Right. So a couple things to unpack there. First off, and this is something we talked about, I think, in the last interview. How did you deal with all the social media stuff? Because, there's idiots who are going to say, oh, well, how come this happened at the, before the fight and all that? Did you just block all that out? I know Safe, your coach, is very good about this, of just tuning all that out. How did you handle all that?
You know how I handle it? I don't deal with it. I just let it go, and that's I'm not the type of person to be all over social media 24/7 with shit,
Yeah.
and people are fucking awful to me. I'm kind of a stud. I look kind of boyish. I'm not the normal quote unquote, women's strawweight fighter. I'm not in my sports bra all the time, showing this off, showing that off. And not that I think anything is wrong with that. It's just not me, it's just not my style. And I just get a lot of shit for it, but I just try to ignore it. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to fight. I put hours and hours and hours, day in and day out, in the gym. And just because I'm not posting about it or not doing this or that doesn't mean I'm not doing it,
Yeah.
And so it's just not really in my style. And honestly, I got some backlash, but it wasn't it wasn't as much as I thought it would be. Just because it's health reasons, it's like it, people think that just because we're fighters means that we should fight unhealthy or we should like go in there at 10%. I'm like, if I want to do this for a few more years, I have to be smart about what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. And I would imagine, yeah, because we already went through this with the whole Valerie Loretta thing, and it was just her fans coming after you as well with that whole thing. And we talked about this in the last interview. I know what you meant. I think a lot of fighters knew what you meant, but of course the fans, they're sensitive. They want to go to bat for their girl, right? So that's just how it goes. But glad to see that that's all behind and you got the fight rebooked. So just tell me as well, how happy were you that the fight got rebooked? Because I know there could have been a chance that Aspen would have got another opponent.
Well, from what I heard, they were looking for another opponent. And it just really sucked because I was really worried about it the whole time because I was like, okay, well, I either fight not being able to really walk, right, and then put on a fucking terrible performance, or if they could, rebook the fight, and then we've already both had a camp for each other. It just it makes sense, right? It really sucks on their part because I was cutting weight too. We were all at a point to where it's like, okay, we're ready to fight, ready to weigh in. Camp is done, and now it's like we have to go through this whole process again. But so it really was shitty on their part and my part too. I'm not going to rule myself out that it was a shitty experience for me. I've been in camp for almost freaking 4 or 5 months now.
Yeah.
So it was really nice for them to be able to rebook the fight, and it makes sense. Like there's a lot of other people who are already booked with fights right now. And and it's just kind of a shitty situation, but it happens. It's sports, it happens all the time.
Yeah, the other name I heard was I heard Misha Tate was the name that was thrown around, and then I know Misha ended up getting booked against Caitlin Vieira. So at least this fight, ended up coming to fruition. The rescheduled fight, like you said. When were you actually able to get back to training? Like I'm sure you took care of the foot, made sure that was all good, and then got back in here because that fight was supposed to take place a couple months ago.
Yeah, it was probably about 3 weeks. Like I needed to be in a boot and kind of just chill and not do anything.
How's that for you? Because you're someone who I know you're in the gym all the time, so it must have drove you nuts a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it really sucked. It wasn't great, but it had to happen. And like I said, like being able to have this fight and fight this fight means everything to me, and I'm sure it means everything to her too. Like we put in the work, we put in the time. I've worked my ass off. I always work my ass off every camp, but this is different. Like I'm ready to make a run for the title. I'm ready to get things in the bag, and I feel like ever since Marion and before that, like leveling up, nonstop. So it was really important for me to get this fight rebooked and be able to focus on what's important right now. And I'm so locked in. I've never felt this good, like training and fighting. I just feel like at peace. I just feel good when I'm fighting. I'm not overthinking anything, and I'm just going with emotion. And being out for 3-4 weeks, having to do nothing really sucked. But it helps my mental game a lot too. Because things aren't always going to be perfect. And you have to not only stay locked in physically, but the mental aspect is the biggest part of the game.
Yeah, no, completely agree. Let's talk about Aspen Ladd. How do you feel like you match up against her in this fight as far as the style matchup?
I think right now in my career and Aspen's career, I think this is a perfect fight. At first, I was a little taken aback because I was like, why is number 3 like calling out number 9, 10, right? I mean, it seems like they're backtracking a little bit, but I don't know. Maybe it's a little pissed off because I beat Marion, but they're trying to get back at me or something like that. But I think it's perfect. She's been out for almost 2 years with her knee injury, and they need a decent fight for her to get back on track with things, and they think that that's me. Which is good for me. It's good for me. Aspen's very heavy grappling. Top position heavy, ground and pound. I've been working a lot on scrambles and get-ups, wrestling defense. My boxing is like, it's on a different level right now. So I'm really excited to see how we match up, after having such long camps for both of us.
Well, I have a theory on this matchup. I want to hear what you think. So I think what the UFC is doing is they're putting two of the most underrated fighters in the division against each other, two of the strongest women in the weight class as well. Like, I don't think people realize how strong both of you are. Like, you see what Aspen's been doing in her training, and
Yeah.
you in general. Like, we saw you in the Ultimate Fighter, and we've seen just the leaps and bounds since then. And also, I know she wanted to fight Juliana Pena. She ends up getting the title shot. So I think there were kind of other options as well. But I like this fight because I think it's a good test for both of you to see where you belong, because they've been waiting for that next fighter to come through. Like, nothing against Juliana Pena. I think most people feel like Amanda's going to win that fight, right? So this fight, though, kind of shows, is there something extra here in this division that could maybe, challenge and give the champ some problems?
Right. I agree too. I mean, people are still like, they're sleeping a little bit on the 35 division, women's division. So I think this fight is like, people are sleeping on this fight. It's gonna be a really good fight. You're gonna see a lot of good transition. You're gonna see real MMA. Mm-hmm. Women's 35. So I'm so hyped. I'm excited.
Training partners, anything different for this camp? Who are you mainly working with ahead of this fight?
Well, I used to work with a lot of smaller guys, and recently I've kind of been beating them up a little bit. So Coach Safe has I've been going with a lot of the UFC 35ers. I used to work with a lot of 25ers just because like they could go 100% and not hurt me or injure me, but it's getting to the point to where they're just way too small. Mm-hmm. They're way too small, and sorry, there's someone pulling up in front of my garage.
I hope everything's okay. Yeah.
I don't know who it is.
Okay.
But yeah, so we've changed it up. I work with Miles a lot. Miles Johns a lot.
Yeah.
Fernie Garcia is another 35.
On Contender Series, I saw that. Congrats to him, by the way. I think that's great.
He's going to be a few days after me on Tuesday. Yeah. So I fight Saturday. He fights Tuesday. Fernie's a perfect perfect training partner grappling wise as well as Miles. So those are the two main guys that I've been working with. I've been getting like hard rounds with, and then of course I work with Damon Jackson as well. So like main training partners, those are the guys. Yeah. Real tough, short and stocky, just like Aspen, very strong. So
yeah, and Damon's got a fight against Charles Rosa, I think, coming up, right? So they're all everyone's kind of coming up with big fights, which is great. What about the weight cut? I know you had to sort of restart after the whole injury. Yeah. How's all that going?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I'm right on schedule. 35 is always a really hard weight for me to make. That's why I'm not able to fight as much as I'd like to, or take short notice fights. But I'm locked in. This is the division that I chose to be in, and it's the sacrifice I'm willing to make. And I run a lot. I run 30 plus miles a week. Before and after practice, I run, which is great for my cardio. I know Aspen's got great stamina, so it's always good to have that little extra push at the end. But I'm in a great spot. I was in a good spot last camp, but I wasn't able to run. So a little bit heavier when I walked in a fight week, but I've been in that position before, so it's not anything that I couldn't have done. But I'm just in a spot now to where I can get really ahead because I'm able to run. So it's going good. I'm ready. I feel good. I'm not as hungry as I usually am. I think I just blocked that out of my mind. But I'm just really excited. It's been such a long time coming, and the injuries and whatnot, and I just feel like I'm at such a good place. I'm not focused on anything but fighting.
How's this fight playing out on October 2nd? How do you envision the fight going down?
Man, it's I think we could see like a really, really, really tirelessly nonstop back and forth 3-rounder. Right? Or maybe a little reversal position in the grappling exchange, right? Or, I catch her. Like I said, my boxing has been on point. My hands are like unlike any level. And I usually don't boast about myself like that, but it's just, I've been working with Charles Bird. Charles Bird used to be in the UFC.
Dynamite Bird. I know him quite well. Yeah. Hopefully he's doing well.
He is the man. He's helped me a lot in the last few months. And the secret is just basics, man. It's just basics. It's tight defense, always moving, never staying in a vulnerable spot, head movement, jabs, right? So I'm really excited to just like show off my basics. And I think this fight could go many different ways, many different ways. So, and I'm sure it's the same for her. You know, I mean, we're both the top of the 35 right now division right now, and you know, and I'm sure she's grown a lot as well. You know, we haven't seen her in a few years, so I'm sure she's been working heavily on her boxing, grappling, wrestling.
You mentioned it there. We talked about it briefly there. Amanda Nunes, Juliana Pena, just as a fellow bantamweight, how do you envision that fight playing out?
Amanda is on fire. You know, Juliana looked really great her last fight. She looks really strong and great shape. Looks like she's peaking right now. And especially at her age, it looks like she's peaking physically. And but Amanda is just the real deal, you know. I have a lot of respect for these women, and they work hard, and I think Amanda takes it. So she's just, like I said, she's the GOAT right now. So
yeah, no, definitely agree with that. As far as your division goes, there's a lot of moving pieces right now. We got that Miesha Tate and Vieira fight. We've got GDR and Aldana actually scrapped. I think it was GDR who had an injury or something. So this kind of opens things up for your fight because, like I said, Aspen, I think, is what, number 3 or at least near the top. So where does a win sort of situate you? I got to imagine you got to be pretty close to a title shot if you get a win, especially a finish here.
If I get a win, definitely top 5. I know I'm getting in top 5. If we get a finish here, it's gonna be big time, big deal. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how the pieces fall into play. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not trying to push for anything right now or jinx myself, but I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm locked in. I'm focused, and that's it. You know, that's all.
I'm going to throw out another scenario out to you here. And again, this is me talking here. This isn't you bringing this up. People always get confused by that, by the way. When a fighter answers something like, oh, they're looking past their fight, it's like, no, I'm asking a question. But, you know, I have a feeling Kayla Harrison's going to be in the UFC next year. And I also found it interesting that Holly Holm has a fight booked at featherweight, which makes me think the division is still a thing, right? Is there any part of you, like, obviously, if you keep winning at 35, you stay in that weight class. But is there any part of you that would be open to going up to 45? Because I think that could be a division if Kayla comes over. Is this something you've thought of?
Yeah, I would love to fight at 45, and I've never been opposed to it because, you know, I fought at 45 for most of my fighting career until I got in the UFC. I just, you know, we pushed for 35 because we didn't know that the division was still going to be a thing.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
And now it seems like it's going to be a thing, right? So, but now I'm like, I feel like I'm so far deep into 35 that it's up to myself to uphold the things that I've wanted to accomplish at 35, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm really focused on the 35 division right now. I would love to fight up at 45. I just didn't really know if that was an option. You know, I thought I heard of rumors of there being maybe one more fight at 45, and then all of a sudden, boom, like Holly Holm's fighting, you know, at 45. So that kind of like took me back. So I was like, whoa. But I would love maybe fight 45 in between, you know?
Just to keep active. Like you were saying, you need time to make the weight, so maybe you could fight more often if there was a fight at 45, right?
Right. Because I honestly like to have a really perfect camp with my weight descending in a healthy way. Like I need about 12 to 8 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for 30. Sure. Well, I don't know if you know this. When Miesha Tate was going to make her... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I can make 45 in 3 weeks.
There you go.
I could get a phone call and be like at my heaviest and then be like, hey, can you fight at 45 in like 2 or 3 weeks? And be like, yeah, I can make it. I mean, that's
saying, Mick Maynard, just saying. There you go. Or whoever does the weight class. I'm not sure who does it. Yeah.
But I mean, they know, you know, and my coach knows, and I always tell them like, hey, like I'm willing to fight up and down. And to be honest, from a money standpoint, like I probably wouldn't have made as much money as I've made now, you know, fighting at 45 because there's just not enough women. There's not enough fights. I wouldn't have grown or made as much money as I've made now, you know, than I would have at 45. So strategically, it was a good decision, and also it pushed me to be better. I mean, I had to do X, Y, and Z the right way, right? I had to be
Mhm.
very disciplined with what I do, and with my training and with my weight. So it's there's a lot of pros, more pros than cons, than at fighting at 35. But as far as like having a fight in between, like trying to get something a little bit more back to back, 45 is great. I would love to fight at 45.
Yeah, because what I heard, well, actually, Misha told us before she had her comeback fight against Marion, she actually asked the UFC to fight at 145. I don't think a lot of people know that. So, and then we've got the other fight I forgot they have is Felicia Spencer's fighting Leah Letson as well, right?
Right.
So
That's
it
so
seems
wild.
like there's some legs here with that division, right? So.
Yeah, I know. So it sounds like they're trying to put things into play. And to be honest with you, I don't know if it's like a societal thing, like where they think women should just be like tiny, but like 45, yeah. There's a lot of women that can actually fight at 45.
Yeah, in
like
your weight class especially. Yeah, I think there's a lot that cut a lot of weight, including Aspen as well. Like she could fight at 45.
Right. Right, for sure. And it's crazy because like I don't know why people all of a sudden like think that female athletes need to have six packs. Like that's not every athlete in the world has a six pack.
Yeah.
Not every athlete in the world you can see their veins in their freaking arms, stomach, legs, calves, and all that stuff, right? And that has nothing to do, like your body type has nothing to do with what you can do, right? It's all about
100%.
how you feel and how you perform at a certain weight. And I think that a lot of women actually can benefit at fighting at 45, and a lot of women just don't know it yet. And they're scared. Some people are scared. They don't know, I mean, people talk shit about women all the time online just because they fight at a heavier weight class. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. It blows my fucking mind, watching these guys fight at 265 looking like a bag of donuts,
Yeah. A lot of it's ignorance, though. It's like you put Fedor next to Sage Northcutt. Who do you think the average person's going to think the better fighter is? They'll think Sage is the better fighter, and it's not a shit throw at Sage. It's just that Fedor is one of the best of all time. He does not look like an athlete, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and I think a lot of women in the long run will benefit from fighting at a heavier weight class. Metabolically, it's better for them. I mean, us as women, we're just, and some women are built a little different. Some women are leaner. Mm-hmm. It's easier for them. They are a little bit smaller, but there's a lot of women, athletically that perform well, even though they don't look like a Sage Northcutt or like, shredded like Tisha Torres all the time,
Yeah.
But it's I think that, if we can get more women to fight at 45, fight in the heavier weight classes, then it's not going to be such a random thing.
Last question, kind of on the same note. Any concerns with Aspen missing weight? Only because, she's been off for a while. I know she's had some trouble getting down to the weight class before. Is that something that's even crossed your mind at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's crossed my mind, but I'm not really concerned about it. She seems really locked in. I mean, it happens, like as long as it's not a big miss and we can't fight. I'm not expecting her to miss weight, but if it happens, I wouldn't be surprised. But she seems, like I said, she seems really locked in. She looks good from what I've seen on her Instagram. She looks pretty lean. She's just on the stockier side, and I know she's always had really, really, really hard weight cuts. Mm-hmm. And so have I. All of my weight cuts have been really hard at 35. I haven't really haven't had an easy one. Mm-hmm. I think I just tell myself that it was easy. But I usually walk into fight week, 15, 16, sometimes 17 pounds over, and that's a pretty decent weight cut. Like, I'm not feeling like I feel like I'm gonna die a little bit, but I know I'm gonna make weight. So, so I feel like we're both in the same situation. I've never missed weight. So
yeah, no, exactly. Do you follow Aspen on Instagram? Does she follow you back?
I don't know if she follows me back. I don't really get into that whole thing of who's following. I'm not that fucking
No, I know. I know.
But
you're just here to fight.
But I've been following her since she got into the UFC. So I've always just kind of and I don't think
she posts good photos. I'll give her that. She posts a lot of cool photos. She's out hiking with the dogs and all that. It's not like what we were talking about before, where it's a lot of sexualized stuff. It's a lot of training or going it looks, a lot of her photos could be on a postcard. You know what I mean?
Right. A lot of her, not that there's anything wrong with posting sexy shit.
No.
I think that's great. Love it. But like I think that she's one of the more like realistic fighters, like someone who's like here to train, be in nature. You know, she's more of like in tune with earth, and I've always followed her since like before I got into the UFC.
Mhm.
Yeah, and she does post some really cool stuff. She kind of reminds me of like Arya Stark. She's like Wolf, you know, like
Okay. Nice.
Jon Snow situation.
Cool. Macy, we went way over time. Thanks so much. This was awesome. Good to catch up with you. Glad to see everything's A-OK going into this one. Anyone you want to thank? Any sponsors? Any social media? I'll give you the last word.
I just want to take a shout out to Reform Orthopedics for helping me with my foot and everything over the last few weeks. Dr. Travis Mann specifically at Reform Ortho. Please check out my Instagram page at Macy Chiasson for Hurricane Ida relief. The Gulf Coast was hit really hard by Hurricane Ida, and if you just go to my page, you can see some places that you guys can donate to. I have a lot of friends and family that have lost everything, and I don't know their situation specifically, but I know what it's like to lose everything, and it really sucks. So it's nice to just have, you know, either like I hope you're doing well, or maybe just a small donation. That would be really awesome. That's it. That's all I gotta say.